So a couple days ago, I was working with the backhoe, digging the sewage treatment plant, trench, whatever you want to call it, hole. One of my hydraulic actuators on the scoop front part of the backhoe started squirting out, not really squirting, but flowing out hydraulic fluid. I think that's from hitting rocks on it, and it's made it weak or something. I'm not quite sure. I'm not a backhoe mechanic. I was keeping my eye on it. I seem to have figured out how to, keep it from making it really bad, and then even really bad. I mean, it's bad. It needs to be fixed. There's no question. Bad like doing damage. It's just leaking, so I'm gonna have to add a lot of oil back, replace what's leaking out. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, I don't even know where that goes yet. So anyway, then the backhoe part, the scoop part has teeth, and they have replaceable teeth. I'm digging away and on just insanely hard ground. I mean, it was just pure rocks. I got a pretty big rock, and I might have not like gold or anything, maybe, I don't know, probably not, but there is some kind of rock here that has value. And I've been pulling out a few. I think I might even have found an arrowhead. Maybe not. Spearhead, maybe. Maybe not. Maybe just a rock that shipped perfectly, which is probably how they all started off in the first place. I've been pulling rocks out that look like they have, because I've been in rock shops before several times over the years, and there might even be like the thunder agates or something like that. Might even be those. A tile saw might be a good investment, because all these rocks, they're whatever, but if I cut them in half, then that exposes the inside of them, and that is an amazing building material. Like, cut open rock, I mean, rock is cool by itself, but like if it's a cool rock or a valued rock or something like that, and that's how you get the value out of them, is you cut them. Sometimes they cut them in slices, sometimes they cut them in half, whatever, but that's pretty much what you're looking for, is the inside, and then you polish it. Different rocks, they polish like the outside, they turn them, and that might be a cool thing to have too, is kind of like a rock tumbler to kind of clean them up a little bit for actually like very nice looking finish work in rock, that type of stuff. Anyway, I digress. There's a lot of rock in the ground. I'm kind of excited about it, really. I don't think Backy is too excited. I named my backhoe Backy the hoe. And so I don't think Backy likes the rocks, because started squirting oil, and one of those teeth came off, and I was like, ugh. So the bucket has little mini teeth, and then those little mini teeth have little holes in them, and then these things slide over the top, and then those things are kept on there by these other things that are like little metal shims that are like bulged on the ends, and you put those in. It looks like there's two of them that work together to keep them in generally. I actually found one kicking around in the rocks looking for like, oh shit, and so that one I found, it just kind of sloppily set in there, right? So I basically I didn't want to ruin things even further. So I'm not going to go out there, and I'm not super worried about the hydraulic situation. I mean, it just needs to be fixed, and I got to be careful with it. But like a whole missing tooth, that could bugger up the way that you put those on. If I just was like, I'll just run it without it. I'm not trying to do all that breaking stuff further. I kicked around in the rocks a little more, looked around, couldn't find the other piece. The other piece sat in there, but it just would fall out. It would just literally in 5 seconds, it would have worked its way out, and then it would have fallen out, the tooth would have fallen off, and I would have been back to square one. Well, I freaking had this idea. Like, what if I just I was thinking initially, 2-part epoxy, and just epoxy it in there. I didn't have any 2-part epoxy. What I did have was some Loctite Power Grab, which is just like this paste in a tube that just glues everything to everything, I think, pretty much. And I just, I put that pin back in there, and I filled the two sides full of that, whatever it is, glue shit. After I did that, I was able to use the backhoe for the rest of the day. I mean, it took me pretty much the whole day to figure that out. Now the backhoe's working, and that's such a solid fix that I'm looking at all those other ones, and they got, and I watched videos, and it's like the guy's like putting new ones on, and it took him like 15 15 minutes to hammer in those pins on some of those ones because you can't get a hammer in between super easily. He had to make his own jig for it all. Like, geez, man. You just put this freaking pin in there loosely, fill the ends full of a pot, this shit. It works exactly the same. And those pins are just keeping that thing from falling back off again. And the way you dig is you dig with the tips. And you could, if you, I don't know why you'd be doing that, but I mean, you could like drag against them and put all the pressure on that pin. But as long as the pin doesn't fall out, that's it. I mean, I don't even know what if somebody would charge me to come out there and do that right. But yeah, I can just go now. I've been digging for days and I was starting to get a little bit like discouraged and start to think about dynamite. I don't even know if I can legally freaking own dynamite or touch it or anything. Like I literally could end up going back to prison for 7 years just like going into a store and asking for dynamite. Maybe. The firearm, explosives, like, I don't know. Legitimately, it was like, just blow that shit up. Wouldn't have made a nice hole, though, because I was thinking all this shit after breaking that tooth off there, and I was just like, this is rough, you know, and am I going to be able to do this? And I even seem to remember the neighbor kid saying something about how his dad tried to dig a big hole or something like this, right? So I'm just whittling away. I get like couple, I mean, not boulders, but big rocks that look fancy. And I think I got below in some areas that crazy big rocks. I think I might have got below that crazy, and now it's like gravel, like super easy digging. I mean, it was digging like a ½ inch, and then you'd like catch an edge of a rock, and a rock would come out of a hole, and then you'd get like 2 inches or 4 inches dug down. But now that I got that big heavy rock layer out of the way in a couple spots, it's like the whole, I guess like that much, 5 inches something goes I mean, it's not like I can just dig with the whole scoop of the bucket, but it doesn't go on top of big rocks. It's just now like digging in packed gravel, which if I have a layer of gravel that's like legitimately like gravel, that's gonna freaking save some money. Because I mean, I was gonna have some, I don't know if I'll have that much where I can just dig up my whole own gravel, but I mean, that hole is like not even 50% dug. So if the whole rest of that hole is gravel, I can have a lot of gravel. It won't be clean, so yeah. Regardless, it'll be easier to dig through gravel than it will be big giant, well, not really big giant. Comparison to the first couple layers of what I've pulled out of here, it's like once I get down like about 2.5 feet, depends, it's a little different, 2-3 feet, it gets to this layer of these bigger rocks, you know, like this. But then I've found some that are like getting through those and then having just gravelly type, that'll go super fast. But like, how stable is that? Like if it's like feet and feet of gravel at the bottom, like the sides of that, ugh. Yeah, I have like no desire to get trapped in some sort of cave-in or anything like this. This is avoid at all costs. So honestly, I don't even know how to deal with something like that. If the ground just, it's super easy to dig super deep and you just dig and the side can't, like right now I can just, like the side, I gotta scrape it to make it the way I want it. But if it gets down to where I'm digging right next to it and then everything just next to it just falls into the hole, everything above it will probably fall too, and it'll become more of a pit than a trench. I don't know. So let's go look at what I've been talking about. Looks like all the stuff that I put in there came out, but for some reason it's still holding. The other side has some in it. Not at all. It seems to be holding without any shit in there. So, let's see. Here's where I've gone. This shows the layers pretty good here. Down here. I kind of looks like a fancy rock. It's often red. I don't know what constitutes fancy in the world of rocks, but I think when they're that thing, I don't know. This might be a thunder egg. It has that kind of encased look to it. And there's a lot of like this rock right here. Here's a round rock that, how did it get round? Rocks don't get round, but from a few not even probably, I don't even know for sure, but there's water rounding and then there's like volcano rounding. I don't know what else makes rocks round, but that looks like one of those agates too. Maybe. Like, look at that. Like a totally different look to it. I mean, the rocks don't look the same. That's what's really interesting, is there's so many different ones. Like, look at this one here. That one's like totally, that one looks like a conglomeration of a bunch of other rocks. Here's one that's totally like white. This is the biggest one. These are the big ones that I've been scooping out with a bucket just to get them out of the way. But this is the winner so far. That's when you're talking about a desert. The wind is probably really bad, and I don't have a dead squirrel or the little furry thing you put on there. So here's where the rocks are ending up. And if you look at that one, there's a round one. There's so many round ones. Here's a big round one. And look, that one has some interesting color. Here's a one with red in it. And this looks like old concrete. Weird. Just a big chunk of compacted dirt. So this whole pile here is building materials, and there's a pile of junipers. It's been really windy the last day, and so I'll run all this. It's starting to get to be where I've got crap is what I call this, is full of plants. It's like the top couple layers. Then this stuff here, full of these rocks, like, that's really usable material. Super usable material. And I'm getting a lot of rocks. I don't know how much of all my digging I'm gonna go that deep, because I'm looking at like my ponds and my creeks and stuff and thinking like, I don't need to go that deep. Seriously, it's just brutal. I mean, getting that first few layers down to where it gets really solid, and then piling up everything that I dig out to make it deep, maybe even using some other stuff I've dug out, but this is really the only place, unless I do some kind of a bunker shelter type thing, this is the only thing where I need to go really deep in here. And I have to go really deep because these things here have to be completely buried to keep from freezing, and they have to be below whatever pitch line that to put them below all the sewage at the right level. Here's some more rocks. And I swear that looks like a thunder agate. If that was cut and polished, I think that's totally, here's the, that totally looks like a arrowhead, kinda. But it does look like it tapers in right there. But which is you have to taper it in there to get the thing to hold, right? So, I mean, it may not have made a really good arrow, but it probably made a pretty decent spear. Maybe. Who knows? This is the area. This is the kind of stuff went on out here. That whole hunting. So this whole land out here, this is all land that used to be no trees, and then you had the grass. The grasses were much more solid. I don't know how the verbiage. So you look here and you see a lot of dirt, exposed dirt everywhere, and a lot of that is from the trees. The trees suck more moisture out of the landscape than anything else does, so they kind of destroy everything. So you look at the big old ones, which I don't have a lot of really old ones, so, but I have a lot of dirt. Look, there's a rock all the way up the surface. That's kind of rare. This kind of looks cool too. Yeah, it's red. It's all red. I don't know. So like this is probably one of the older trees on the property, and you'll see that there's not much growing around it. Huge vacancies. Something else that just takes out stuff around here really big time is these ants. I've got mounds like this all over. None are populated though, and this is gravel. Really crazy, like how these, like, you can, everywhere where the ants have been, all the rocks are up towards the surface. So this, you do this all over. I've seen ants, but I have not seen ants in like mass. This hole here, this hole is like, it looks like something else has been digging down into it, which would be cool if there's stuff that eats the ants. This all used to be just the grasses, and then you had probably like deer, maybe like some other grazing type animals. So they'd be out here in herds, and they'd be grazing the grass down and shitting and adding the nitrogen back, and that whole ecosystem got effed off. And then these trees come in and they really mess up stuff for like everything, really, all the natural. And then there is no more herd animals in here shitting all over the ground, adding the nitrogen. So getting rid of the trees. I'm going to be putting in other trees because it's just the way it's going to go. Oh shit, my cat's outside. What are you doing out? How did you get out? You do not get out. What the hell? Get in there. The grazing animals. Get the trees out of here. You know, and the natural habitat is for the sage to be out here. But I don't know if the sage is going to last through my, because I want the dirt covered. What is that? I want the dirt covered. I want grass growing, and I'm gonna put probably goats out here first to start to convert the. Here's another ant hole. Something digging into it. Whatever you call these. These things are everywhere though. There's so many, it's crazy. But then I just see like a couple ants every once in a while, and I step on them. And I smash the little hole that they're working on currently when I do see them, to discourage them from making any ant things around me. I guess they're going to be a pain in my ass, but I'm going to build a wall. The audio just sucks right now. I'm sorry about that. They started but didn't get very far right here. They being the ants. They're there. I just see them everywhere. I think they're after the berries on the trees. So I don't think they're running low on nutritious ant food, because these junipers drop berries by the freaking thousands. And so juniper cider, is that going to be a thing? Gotta try. So anyway, that's a little catch up on what's going on. Just been drone, but there's too windy for drones, and no daytime driving, so the videos are kind of few and far between. Yeah. That's Backy.